The EFL is comprised of 72 teams in total, but out of those sides, who are the biggest? Using average league attendances from this season, I've picked out the 20 biggest clubs in the EFL based on those statistics. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, make sure to drop a like. Obviously, it is worth stressing that club size is more than just your average gate, but it is an interesting indication. Without any further ado, let's jump in. So ranked as the 20th biggest club in the EFL, we've got Bradford, the only League 2 representatives on this list. They've had by far and away the biggest average gates in League 2 this season, over 17,000 fans in at Valley Parade on average. And is this finally going to be the year that they get themselves back up to League 1? They've been playing in League 2 now since 2019, which is absolutely crazy for a club the size of Bradford. I've only been to Valley Parade once myself as a North End fan, but you can see it in the stadium. That club definitely should be higher than League 2. Got a bit of a soft spot for them as well because Graham Alexander is their manager, but if all goes well between now and the end of the season, there's a very good chance they will be playing in League 1 next season. Ranked as the 19th biggest club in the EFL, it's Huddersfield Town, who have had gates of over 18,700 in League 1 this season. And in fairness to Huddersfield, their attendance figures didn't actually drop off that much compared to last season when they were playing in the Championship. Around that time, they were getting gates of around 19,400. So a little bit of a drop this season in League 1, but that's to be expected. All in all, it's been a pretty crazy season for them in the third tier as well. They started out fairly well under Michael Duff up until January, were sort of consistently always in the top 4 or 5 places in League 1, but they've since dropped down to 8th in the table, and yeah, it's not been a great few months for them, has it? The 18th biggest club in the EFL is Cardiff, based on the statistics. They've had gates of just over 19,000 on average so far this season. I always think with a club like Cardiff, there's so much untapped potential there because of the size of the city, what that fan base could potentially look like, but obviously this season's not been particularly great for them in the Championship. It's been the case for quite a few of their recent Championship campaigns, to be honest with you, but going back to when they were in the Premier League back in 2018/19, they were regularly attracting crowds of over 30,000 then, so definitely a lot of untapped potential, but they still just about make this list. Coming in 17th place, we've got Watford. They've had average attendances of over 19,300 in the Championship this season. In fairness to that Watford fan base, the average gates have remained really consistent, whether they've been playing in the Premier League or the Championship. There's never really been that much of a drop-off at that stadium. Based on these statistics, they've got the 17th biggest fan base in the EFL. Coming in 16th place, we've got the Burnley fans in at Turf Moor. They've had gates of over 19,700 on average this season, and quite similarly to Watford as well, that fan base has been pretty consistent in recent years, whether they've been playing in the Championship or in the Premier League. Now, whether or not Burnley will be playing in the EFL next season, it remains to be seen. Still got a very good chance of promotion. They're on a brilliant unbeaten run right now, but the race for automatic promotion in the Championship, it's definitely going to go right down to the wire, isn't it? The 15th biggest club in the EFL, based on these stats, is Portsmouth in at Fratton Park. They've had average gates of over 20,200. Now, Portsmouth are definitely one of the clubs that would benefit from a stadium expansion. They could definitely sell out more than the capacity of Fratton Park right now, but they make it a brilliant atmosphere, and not just at home as well, but they travel really well. I think I'd go on record as saying Portsmouth have been the best away fans to visit Deepdale this season. Really loud when they came, so not much of a surprise that they make the top 20 of this list. The 14th biggest club in the EFL based on attendances is Hull City, who have had average crowds of over 21,100 this season. And I mean, that new ownership at Hull hasn't got everything spot on, but what they have done is got a lot of people back and integrated within that fan base. You know, pre-COVID, Hull were only getting crowds of around 11,000-12,000 on average, and you look at them now attracting over 21,000 on average. That's a massive bump up that they've had in attendances in recent years. Now, in terms of value for money, Hull fans haven't got a great deal of that this season. They've actually had the worst home record of any Championship club this far into the campaign, but in terms of loyal support, Hull are up there. The 13th biggest club in the EFL is Bolton Wanderers, obviously currently playing in League 1. They've been attracting crowds of over 21,400 on average. They've gone agonisingly close to promotion to the Championship in recent years, but have had a couple of failed playoff attempts. As of recording right now, looks more than likely that they'll probably be taking up one of those playoff spots spots come the end of the season as well, so we'll wait and see if we have them in the second tier next season. But in terms of size of fan base, Bolton definitely belong in at least the Championship, don't they? As the 12th biggest club in the EFL, we've got the Bristol City fans in at Ashton Gate. They've had average gates this season of 21,807 fans. Bristol City have really quite relied heavily on their home form this season, so that crowd's clearly made a difference to having a positive impact on their results this season. Obviously, in recent years, they've done quite a lot to renovate that ground as well, and the attendances have risen as a result of that. 11th on this list, we've got the Stoke City fans in at the Bet365 Stadium with gates of 22,445 on average. Now, recent years in the Championship, Stoke really haven't had anything to shout about. I mean, ever since their relegation from the Premier League, they've been a bottom half Championship club that's been flirting with relegation but never quite been bad enough to go down, as they have been subject to some pretty dour years in the second tier. Average gates have dwindled, but ever since COVID, to be fair, the numbers have remained fairly consistent, and even in the last 2 seasons they've actually gone up a little bit, which is fairly surprising. The 10th biggest club in the EFL is West Brom. They've got average gates of over 24,900. They do have one of the most consistent home fan bases as well in terms of regularly turning up season upon season. There's never been that much fluctuation between how many fans West Brom are getting in any given home gate, whether they're playing in the Premier League or Championship. Considering I think the Hawthorns holds just over 26,000 in total, that stadium all in all is pretty full every match week. The 9th biggest club in the EFL is Middlesbrough. Based on average home gates, they've had attendances this season of over 25,100. Now, interestingly, that average figure is a slight drop off from recent seasons where Middlesbrough had been averaging just over 26,000, but they still make the top 10 of this list. Coming in 8th place, we've got the Norwich fans in at Carrow Road. They've had average gates this season of 26,276. Definitely one of the most consistent fan bases in the Championship for regularly selling out their stadium. I think they're definitely a club that could definitely have a stadium expansion, and they wouldn't have many problems with filling it. Even during a season like this where it's been so inconsistent for Norwich, they've still regularly brought in those home crowds. Coming in 7th place, we've got Sheffield Wednesday. They've had average gates this season of just over 26,500. I say this every single time about Sheffield Wednesday, but I can't help but think that their average gates would be considerably higher if they went ahead and dropped their ticket prices. It's absolutely extortionate how much some Sheffield Wednesday fans are paying to watch their club in the second tier. It's also worth stressing as well, Sheffield Wednesday have the second worst home record of any Championship club. Only Hull have picked up fewer points in home matches this season than Sheffield Wednesday have. So Wednesday fans haven't exactly got great value for money, but still a very consistent and vocal fan base that they've got behind them. Some of the best travelling fans in the Championship as well, I'd say. The 6th biggest club in the EFL is Birmingham. They've had average gates this season of 26,712 in League One, and I mean that figure could absolutely skyrocket over these next few years when they do eventually move into their new stadium, which they've got plans for. I think it's been suggested that Birmingham want to move into a new stadium by 2029, so that's the sort of time frame we're working with at the moment, and it's been suggested that that new ground could hold 62,000 fans, which is an absolutely huge expansion from St Andrews. Obviously, they've absolutely steamrolled League One this season. Very much looking forward to having them back in the Championship next season, and yeah, I'm sure that fan base is going to be right up for the second tier next season, isn't it? Coming in as the 5th biggest club in the EFL, it's Coventry, where they've had gates this season of 27,366 on average. A fan base which has grown exponentially in recent years, considering where they were, 10 years ago with all the struggles they were having, whether that was not having a permanent home, having to play elsewhere, dropping down as far as League Two. Coventry fans have got it pretty good right now, judging off their recent history. That's been reflected by how many fans they've got at the moment. They're ranked as the 5th biggest on this list. Taking the 4th spot as the 4th biggest club in the EFL, it is Sheffield United. They've had average gates of 28,123 in the second tier, and compared to last season in the Premier League, where I'm assuming Sheffield United fans weren't getting a lot of kicks at seeing their side getting battered in the Premier League every week, It's been a hell of a ride for them this season, hasn't it? From the complete squad rebuild that took place over the summer, you know, the takeover they've had since, having to deal with a point deduction at the start of the season, to now be top of the Championship. Yeah, what a job Chris Wilder's done, and that fan base has been behind him every step of the way. The third biggest club in the EFL based on average attendances is Derby. They've had average gates this season of just under 29,000 fans, and that right there I think shows the untapped potential that Derby have got, especially in recent years, considering where that club's been, all the problems they've had off the pitch, obviously, recently spending a couple of years in League One, before that, fighting relegation in the Championship. That's where they are in the table at the moment, but there can be no doubt Derby have one of the biggest fan bases in the EFL, and if that club did manage to get things right off the pitch, there's so much potential there. Now, it is quite a big jump to second place, ranked second as the second biggest club in the EFL. It is Leeds United, based on their attendance figures, 36,119. Now, before any Leeds fans shout at me in the comments down below, it is worth stressing that they are absolutely packing out that ground week in, week out, and had they had the capacity to hold more spectators, no doubt that they'd have a lot more packed in there, and there is a valid argument that Leeds probably would be number one on this list if Ellen Road was that little bit bigger. I would be interested to know from some Leeds fans in the comments down below, what sort of figure do you genuinely think that you could sell out on a weekly basis should your stadium be expanded to that size? How big do you think you could potentially go to still be filling your Championship stadium week in, week out? Let me know. But unsurprisingly, coming in at the top of the tree is the biggest club in the EFL based on average attendances. It is Sunderland. They've had average gates this season of just under 39,000. Obviously, unlike Leeds, they do have the capacity to hold more fans, so maybe it's a bit of an unfair experiment between those two in particular, because Sunderland have a bit of an advantage in that sense because of the sheer size of the Stadium of Light. But there's no doubt that Sunderland do rank not just as one of the biggest clubs in the EFL, but one of the biggest clubs in England in terms of size, fan base. They're amazing away from home, and this season they've been treated to some really nice football as well. Obviously, there is a very good chance that they're playing in the Premier League next season along with Leeds as well. So as of recording right now, based on the stats, Sunderland are technically number one. But there you guys have it. That will wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and get all your thoughts in the comments down below. Other than that though guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.